Time to reset this ahead of OTAs. Finishing up from Prague with OTAs about to start. Again, a reset is necessary, especially since the 49ers are coming off such injury hell. What is their health situation entering the meat of this off-season program? Injury update, absolutely critical because the 49ers roster, if they stay healthy, I think has an argument to be the best in the NFL. Last year, that argument was seen loud and clear in week one when they statistically dominated the Seattle Seahawks, even when they weren't fully healthy. The two headliners, obviously, Nick Bosa and Fred Warner, hurt in weeks 3 and 6, respectively, last season. And we can expect Fred Warner to be back. He would have been back, I think, last year. The 49ers advanced to the NFC Championship game. Bosa in the process of putting muscle back on following recovery from that torn ACL. He has about 2 months to be ready for the start of training camp, and then obviously camp is long as well. So I would expect that Nick Bosa will indeed be ready for week 1 in Australia. Of course, closer call for Mykel Williams. It is not going to be a close call, though, for Fred Warner. As they said, it would have been ready for the NFC Championship game last year. Took up swimming. I remember talking to him on the field ahead of one of the 49ers late season games in 2025. As we know, swimming, very therapeutic, good for the health, good for recovery. And Warner took up swimming in order to expedite his recovery process. I mean, it was an almost miraculous return last season for Fred Warner, but he certainly is going to be back to anchor that San Francisco defense in 2026. Mykel Williams, another 49ers high-profile injury. Because it happened 6 weeks after Bosa, I think that this one might and has a really good chance of lasting a little bit further into training camp for the 49ers. Mykel seemed optimistic when we talked to him ahead of the offseason. And he's young, remember, only 20 years old, his rookie season. So I think that can aid in recovery. But the 49ers certainly are going to want Mykel out there sooner rather than later. I talk about the fame of this alley. If you know the author Franz Kafka, he lived in this house, number 22. On the Golden Alley. That you could tell that the doors did not used to be nearly as tall as they are in the modern day. I think people used to be shorter. I mean, take a look at this house. And people used to be hobbits back in the day. I don't think that I would fit in any of these houses. Yeah, I'm a lot taller. Look, if I stand next to the door, I'm a good half foot taller than the door. So nutrition has maybe not gotten better. Nutrition has definitely seen more hormones entering into our food, so we've gotten taller as time has progressed. Now, you know, the 49ers had so many players hurt at the end of last season. Warner, Bosa, and Mykel Williams were the definite headliners for San Francisco, but, you know, guys like Ricky Pearsall were hurt at the end of last season. Even though he played against the Seahawks, obviously the PCL was still bothering him. Ricky is back to full health. Ricky Pearsall, by the way, went to Japan this offseason. He went on a couple trips. I think he went to Japan, he went to the Philippines. Keeping Ricky Pearsall healthy of massive, massive importance for the 49ers. We have made it out of the castle to the perimeter fortifications. Look, you can even see the archer hole. Stick the bow and arrow through there, fend off anyone who tries to come on through. 49ers offensive line had 2 players injured by the end of last season, and they're obviously a crew that is trying to fend off anyone who tries to come through and hit Brock Purdy. Dominic Puni was hurt the whole season, dealing with a knee injury that he suffered early on against the Raiders in the preseason on an extra point attempt. He should be fully healthy this year, finally has a chance to recover, kind of like Ricky Pearsall, who suffered a knee injury that lingered with him for the entirety of the season. You might remember that Trent Williams finished the 2025 season with a hamstring injury. Now, he's going to be fully healthy, and look what I just found. Right here through the gate, that is the moat. Yes, the castle has a moat, and well, the 49ers offensive line, we talk about fortifications. I think they want to be a wall, and they want to be a moat. They don't want to let anyone through. That's what the map of the moat looks like. Our uphill walk here in Prague has taken us to a grittier area where, I kid you not, Joseph Stalin used to overlook the city. You can see all the graffiti now. For a few years up in the 1950s, the Soviet dictator had a massive, massive statue here. But that was too much even for the communists of the time, so they ended up blowing it up. The history of the Cold War, I know I went through the deepest subway station in Europe yesterday, told you guys that it was a nuclear shelter. Well, the start of this video, we had a view of the American flag at the American embassy. Believe it or not, that American flag stayed flying throughout the entirety of the Cold War. And the communist government here might not have liked it, but there really was nothing they could do about it without causing a major international incident with the Americans. That flag became a symbol of freedom for people living under communist rule. And as we honored the troops and honored the flag on Memorial Day, a good reminder that the American flag still flies strong here in Prague, even long, over 30 years after the revolution from communism. This, of course, was not a symbol of freedom, but it is now gone, and now you've got the faded glory. They let the area that was once marred by a statue of Joseph Stalin be covered in graffiti. And if there's anything that I'm okay with being covered in graffiti, it is just that. Back to the injury report. Alfred Collins, 49ers rookie defensive tackle last season, had a shoulder surgery after all was said and done. He should be ready for training camp. And you know, Collins is somebody who deserves a big spotlight this year, because I think that he might end up being the best player out of that 2025 draft class. He's got so much untapped potential. I think he started to tap some of it last season, but the shoulder injury that he played through certainly did not help him maximize it, and they believe he's going to be 100% this year, and is going to be such a key, large piece there in the middle of that defensive line. Next to Collins, Keon White, 49ers defensive end, shot in the ankle the night of the Super Bowl. And, you know, there was major concern when we first heard that news. I mean, a gunshot to the ankle could do a whole lot of damage to an athlete. But Keon White, we've seen him working out. He's posted on social media, and it really does look like he's either at 100% or very close to it. Based on what we saw about a month ago, he might even be on the field here during OTAs. Now, do not discount the importance of somebody like Keon White, especially right now when the 49ers, I think that they still might be a little short on premium firepower at defensive end, especially opposite Nick Bosa when it comes to pass rushers. There's a reason why they're interested in Joey Bosa. There's a reason why, you know, we talk about potential trades down the road. The pipe dreams obviously being somebody like Myles Garrett, maybe even a Max Crosby, but that's pre-deadline stuff. The reason we talk about all that, though, is because the 49ers are not quite stocked at that opposite defensive end position when it comes to rushing the passer. Keon White, somebody who delivered about 20 pressures for the 49ers last year. He was able to be an outside-in player as well. We'll see how much shuffling the 49ers do under Raheem Morris, but Chris Kasarik is still the defensive line coach, and I think Keon White, the 49ers acquired for 2 seasons of team control, the end of last season and this one, he could be a valuable piece for San Francisco along this defensive line, and it does look like he's on track to be fully healthy. Remember that Jake Tonges, 49ers tight end, was also injured to close last season. Plantar fasciitis that he suffered against the Seahawks in the playoffs. But he avoided surgery and I think is good to go now. Now, George Kittle, his co-tight end, unfortunately is not good to go yet, but we've seen George Kittle on all over social media. I know that he's a little light right now, but obviously he hasn't had a chance to lift. He's going to have to put on some weight, just like he did a couple off seasons ago after the core muscle surgery. Kittle, it would surprise me if he's ready for week 1, but it wouldn't absolutely shock me. I would think pup, physically unable to perform for at least 4 weeks to begin the season for George Kittle. We made it to the beer garden. Good thing that we're on our last 2 health watches for the 49ers. Dre Greenlaw, I mean, he's always going to be on a health watch. And I think the 49ers understood that when they signed him, and I think that's why people are going to be keeping a close eye on Nick Martin. But Greenlaw struggled with his health even last season with the Denver Broncos, which is why they let him out of that contract and why he is back with the 49ers now. Then there's Malik Mustapha to keep an eye out on. And Mustapha tore his ACL the final game of the 2024 season. I think that's why he wasn't quite as good in 2025 as he had been as a rookie, but now he's got a full other year under his belt and distance from that ACL tear, which is significant. Many of you have wondered why the 49ers coverage from Prague over the course of the past few days. Well, my Czech grandmother, Dasha Svatonyova, passed away just a few months ago. She had been living with my parents in the United States, but my mom and I were able to take her ashes back here to her home city of Prague, and we buried her. She is now reunited again with my grandfather, Miloš Svatony, who died 27 years ago. And we've had some fittingly perfect weather in this spectacular city, the home city of both of my Czech grandparents, and I thought that it was fittingly perfect when on the last sunset, on the day that we buried them, there was a spectacular golden hour in Prague where I had a chance to finish the shot on the church where my grandfather and grandmother were married. I was so lucky to have both of them as grandparents. It definitely shaped my view of the world growing up. Helped me appreciate travel, and I think in a big way carries over to my football coverage. So this is a video in which I wanted to shout out to both of my Czech grandparents who are now back home here in Prague.